Hola amigos, hola. Okay, I tried to shoot this video and I completely like spaced out, so I'm trying again. I'm also losing light. It's about 5:30 in the afternoon and if the video gets progressively darker, I'm so sorry. I'm not a big fan of like huge bright lights, so it's just gonna get darker. I'm sorry. I should have shot this earlier. But I wanted to talk about this topic because it has come up quite recently for me and I have been thinking about it and analyzing it and I want to talk about it. Um, Specifically, I want to talk about the title of the video, which is Potential for Pretty, which is just to explain the title, I guess. Not always, in the last 2-3 days, I thought, hey, if I ever did write a memoir, what would I call it? If I ever wrote an autobiography. And I thought about maybe calling it Potential for Pretty. And I was like, wait, no, that is not stuck with me. I do not have that close to heart. So I'm naming this video that. The reason I thought about that for 2 seconds was because it's just something I feel like came up when I was young, that I could be pretty one day. And I think that starts from young. And now that I'm thinking about it, the further back I look, I was never called beautiful or really pretty or anything else like when I was a teenager or a kid, which is fine because like you're a kid. And I had kind of like maybe more tomboyish vibes. And I don't think I was ever, I don't think it was ever my goal to be pretty, but it was just never something that I owned or lived with. And I'm not saying that that's who I am now. If you've ever seen Caroline Lusk, is that her name? Coraline? Is it Coraline or Caroline? I think it's Coraline. I'm not sure, but if you look her up, she has a video about how she's always been called pretty her whole life and she owns it and she is taking it back now. And the kind of things that have come with that. And I kind of thought of the opposite. She was talking about the negative things that come with being called pretty and being pursued at such a young age and being like an object of so many people's affection at such a young age. And again, it's a fantastic video and she like I said, she owns it as she should. But I kind of thought about the opposite and how what that, if it ever did affect me, not being called pretty or not being seen as something beautiful. It's kind of like that idea that floats around of like, if you're walking down the street, nobody catcalls you. One, you're like, oh, thank God, I feel safe, I feel respected. And two, oh my God, am I ugly? Does no one think I'm worth being catcalled? Oh my God, this just brought to mind a memory. I have so many memories coming to my brain right now, but it just brought to mind a memory I had when I was working in Miami with a student who was 17 years old, a minor, and I had to escort her to the clinic. And while I was walking with her, I think we were on our way back already, I think maybe at least 2, maybe 3 different cars either honked or men stuck their heads out of windows and whistled. And that is not an experience. That's not an experience that I've ever gone through. So immediately my thought was not, because I'd been living in Miami for a while, my thought was not, oh, they're talking to me, or oh my God, they're talking to me. That was never my thought. I immediately looked at her. The minute somebody honked the horn, the minute somebody shouted something out of their car window in our direction, I looked at her, and the look on her face of complete, kind of just like almost boredom, not boredom, but like, I'm used to this. And I asked her, like, does this happen to you often? Again, because this is not my experience. And she goes, yeah. And she's a beautiful girl and like beautiful, like everything. But I was just like, I wonder how that affects your brain. Like, obviously it does. Like, it really, it must. And I was thinking about how it must affect me to like live that opposite experience. And I was thinking about the fact that I grew up kind of, like I said, tomboyish, and that was never really the goal for me. I never felt like I was surrounded by lots of, I have very humble parents. I did not grow up with glitz and glamour and makeup and this idea of, or magazines in my house, or like any type of like aspirations to be model like or princess like. That was never my mom or my parents. um it was just never a goal, and in a way I'm very grateful, and in another way I'm just like because obviously the world we live in. And I remember going all the way back to probably 6th grade. The potential for pretty must have started because, again, my whole life I felt like my talents, my comedy, maybe all springing from that, were what I leaned on. And it's how I made friends, and it's how my kindness, the words I use, it all attributed to who approached me. It was not my clothes, it was not the way I looked, it was not anything like that. It was always what I did and my efforts. So, oh my God, what kind of life would it be if it was the opposite? I just really want to know how that would have affected my, I don't know, my development. If it does affect it at all, I mean, it has to, but not in a good or bad way. But I'm thinking about how I had a friend who had known me since 5th grade probably, and we weren't crazy close, but she was like, I forget why on earth she brought this up. Maybe I'd caught her doing her makeup or something, I'm not sure, but I remember her kind of talking to me in class or at lunch, I'm not sure. She basically said, "Oh my gosh, Joe, I don't think you know how pretty you'd be if you just knew how to do your makeup or if you started wearing makeup." And I just remember being like, pretty? Like, that's never been. I was like, what do I need that for? Like, what's that? Like, I don't know what took me so long to like connect the dots and to figure out that that wasn't something I had ever been taught. I had never been taught that pretty was something you could just make of yourself. Pretty was something that you could bring on to yourself. It was either like, I don't know. It's like I had face blindness. I couldn't tell you which of my friends was the hottest in middle school. Like, I couldn't tell you who was the most this or that. I never thought of things that way. To me, pretty was something you said about art because I was such a little painter. And I say that so modestly, but like it was my whole career until recently. But pretty was something you said about like flowers and like, but not people. It was not something you said about a person. And it's not because I had been taught that that's not what you say about a person, but that was just something that never occurred to me. And I thought man and woman, if that's the case, then men and women could be pretty. I don't know. I was a little behind. And my friend offered to do like a whole Princess Diaries makeover on me at school in the bathroom. She was like, "I'm gonna bring the makeup tomorrow. We're gonna have a makeover." And I was like, no. I don't know what I was scared of. I think I was afraid it was gonna change me. It was gonna make me into something I wasn't. It was gonna turn me into like a spoiled, rotten princess Disney Channel bully. I don't know what it was gonna do to me, but I felt like it was gonna change who I was, and I liked who I was. And I wanted to stick with it. I'm like, no, I'm literally so funny and so creative and so cool and not scared of anything. Like, why on earth would I want to mess around with makeup and change who I am? Like, I really thought it was going to change my whole personality. And the next day she came with the makeup and she's like, "Joe, let's go. Let's go." Because again, this is all like in the middle of math class. And I'm like, no, I'm not going with you. And as big as a people pleaser I am, I do have limits. I do have boundaries. But yeah, I didn't go with her. And I think she was a bit disappointed. But I really did think it was gonna change me. I thought it was gonna make me something. I thought my dad would find out and I'd get in trouble. But yeah, being pretty meant that being pretty might have meant that I was attracting something, that I was more interested in what people thought of me. And it wasn't that I was actively trying not to be pretty, because I was interested in fashion to an extent with, whatever hand-me-downs I had. But it was not my pursuit, because I didn't want to be, one, perceived as the type of girl who cares, and two, I thought that it meant that I was going to attract like I wanted men's attention, and that said something about me. And I was like, no, absolutely not. We cannot go down this lane. I want to survive to make it to like 7th grade. So being pretty just meant all of those things. And maybe in a weird subconscious way, I saw the problems that came with it. I saw men or the other guys in school treat my friends a certain way, and it didn't look fun and it didn't look good, and it looked actually like a burden. And maybe subconsciously I took some of that. And, I mean, you see it in movies, you see it wherever, and I just felt like maybe pretty comes with trouble, and I shouldn't want any part of that. And it wasn't very Christian or godlike of me as a little 11-year-old. Who knows how old I was? But as I kept growing, I just remember like going to the store with my mom, and I feel like maybe I'd gone to, I don't think I ever craved makeup, but I do remember thinking my clothes could somehow like make me better. Because there definitely did come a time like in late high school where I was like, I'm so ugly. And I think it came from, I don't know where it came from, but I felt like no one around me was having the problem that I was having. And the problem was I think I'm just naturally ugly, and I have to live with it. And I'm gonna have to become like something. I'm gonna have to become something, because I can't do anything with my looks. My looks are not going to give me anything. My looks are not going to, I don't know. And I wasn't looking for a husband. I was just like, I don't know. I could see, I think when I was a kid, I could see the negative aspects of being pretty. But when I got older, I definitely noticed the like good aspects. I'm like, dang, like this is just a nice way to walk around the world, I think. And I don't know. And like by the time I was in college, I didn't care anymore. And it was not, again, these were like such like, the reason I don't want this to be a future memoir title or something like that is because it truly was something in the back of my mind that only hit me like once a year. I was never like searching or confused or crying at night because I was so dang ugly. It was always like, it was just never that important to me. I want to emphasize that because I don't want to make it seem like I was staring at the mirror every day, you know, and crying. But like, I was so fortunate to have such, I cannot emphasize enough, such good friends around me and such good people around me and cousins and a mom. And like, I just had so much love. I didn't really look for it much else. But again, it would hit me like once a year where I was like, I'm ugly. But yeah, as a especially when I was in college, I was so busy working full time in church full time, and when I like actually in church full time, and in school full time. I was doing everything full time. I was the busiest you could imagine. I can't imagine having that schedule today. It's actually crazy. But there wasn't too much time to focus on my looks. I was much more focused on doing things well and getting to the next step, because in college there was just so many steps. I was transferring schools, COVID was happening, like there was a million things happening. And it wasn't until, oh my God, it wasn't until like TikTok maybe? Because I've been making videos for years, since I was 16, right? I was making vlogs on YouTube that got no views. I think I hit 100 followers and I was like, ah, by the time I was like 20, 21. And then COVID happened and I was 22 and I still had like a year of college left. And I remember I started posting and the comments were interesting. It was the first time that I had gotten so many people's opinions at once. And those opinions were, you look like Zendaya. You're so pretty. Blah, blah, blah. Things that I could easily ignore. Because I'm like, I don't look like Zendaya. You guys are crazy. But I've been a fan. Like, this is the Zendaya chapter. I've been a fan of Zendaya since I was 12, like since Shake It Up. And not once did I think I thought of her, I look like her. Two, I didn't think she was like drop dead gorgeous. Again, since I was 12, I didn't really think of people in that way. You know what I mean? And it wasn't until much later, oh my God, probably that time that I was like, and I looked up Zendaya. I'm like, oh my God, she's a goddess. She's gorgeous. And I've known her. I've been a fan. I don't know what clicked in my brain. It took so long. And I've noticed that happens with people. With me especially, like it takes me so long to notice beauty in people specifically. I can know you for months, years. And then one day I look at you, I'm like, that's possibly the most beautiful human I've ever met. And it's stunning to me. And I don't know if it's because I see souls first, but it's also, I feel like it has something to do with the fact that I can't really conjure faces up. Like, you guys know I'm a writer. It really is just souls walking around, having conversations and talking. And I'm not trying to be, oh, she's so cool, she thinks like that. No, it's so frustrating because I cast my books. Like I'm like a casting director. I'm like choosing actors. I'm like looking up Pinterest boards. And even if I've seen an actor my whole life, I still have trouble conjuring up their faces sometimes. And I have to go look at interviews and look them up and be like, okay, they're back. They're back in my head. And I've always had trouble memorizing faces and things like that. I don't even know if this is relevant, but that's just the truth of it. And I just never thought of, back to Zendaya, I just never thought of Zendaya as like a crazy, beautiful person, you know? I just never thought of her that way. This could also have something to do with the fact that she does look like me, and I didn't think of that. I didn't think of myself that way. But when I started seeing her as other people saw her, it helped me look at myself differently. But then I just kind of like, well, you know, when people say I look like her, what they mean is I look like her in Spider-Man when she was like a little weird. That's what they meant. That's what they meant I look like. And that's probably true, but I don't know if me and Red Carpet Zendaya have any similarities, to be honest. There's actually, never mind. I was gonna bring something up, but never mind. But in the last couple years or so, I've been kind of like ignoring that whole prettiness thing. And in the last couple years ago, as I've learned how to do my makeup and as I've been consuming K-pop on a regular basis, as I've been learning so much about what's the outward appearance, how important that is, at least, you know, if you want it to be. You know, as I've just been going through the motions of self-maintenance, I've really learned a lot about loving myself, and which is crazy because I feel like I've always loved myself. Like I said, as a kid, I was like, I'm cool, I'm funny, I'm creative. What else is there? There's like the whole body that carries you. There's the entire like part of you that walks on the earth that people see. And as the older I got and the more, for example, job positions I got where I was working with men who were older and they had things to say about how I looked, positive things, but also kind of like creepy things. I remember at 23 working at UPS, and there was a lot of deliveries that we made to men who were older, and my driver was like, you see, the only reason they're coming all the way to the truck is so that they can see you. And that concept blew my mind. I was like, no, they're not. No, they're not. And he was like, you don't think you're beautiful? This is so weird. Like, this is the only reason these men are coming off their porches to come all the way to the truck. It's because you're here. You're a girl. And I'm like, yeah, I'm a girl, but like maybe it's been weeks since they've seen a girl. It doesn't mean I'm stunning or beautiful or anything like that. I still don't think that. But yeah, the very few times that I've been called beautiful in person, I can remember them, or pretty in person, I can remember them, like random times. But it's been hard to believe. It's been hard to take it. And maybe in a weird way, I do feel like it might change me to believe that. There's a certain like beauty and humbleness, I guess, which I do believe my mom possesses just so Like sometimes, like I recently went on a trip with my mom to Colombia, and I was looking at her, and the whole time I was like, oh my God, my mom is gorgeous. How did I not notice? Like she's so pretty. And I was like, dang, my mom is so pretty. My dad is lucky. My dad is so lucky. Like she is so pretty. Just naturally, like my mom, like I said, super humble, never flashy, never crazy, like never like doing up her face with makeup, just or accessories or anything like that. Just so humble. And oh my God, it's getting dark. But I don't know, like, why does it take me so long to recognize that in people? And I feel like maybe this is something I asked God for. I asked God a long time ago to be like, hey God, don't let me ever like fall for someone unless it's something you want. Outside of romanticness, I'm talking about like this inability to see someone until I've like gotten to know them. And, you know, and I've worked with a million people. I've definitely seen when someone's objectively attractive or beautiful or whatever the heck. Yeah, but I see it and it registers, but it's not, it's just like, yeah, I don't know. It's not really, it's not clicking. It's not clicking. It takes a moment, especially when it's someone I'm engaging with. It takes so long. Oh my God, I can't tell you how many times. And maybe this is true of everyone. Maybe it does take like a minute, or like, I've said this before. I'm actually writing a book about this, how like beauty can be like fleeting, and it can be like something withstanding. And it can be similar to a sunrise. Like a sunrise is gonna always be beautiful no matter what. No matter if you pay attention to it or not, it's always gonna be beautiful. But in those moments when you take the time to actually look at it, whoa. But it's always there and it's always beautiful. But it takes, sometimes you can go years without really noticing it. I don't want to be like poetic right now, but like, but yeah, there's some things that are just beautiful and it's a fact, and you get used to it, and then it's like you wake up and you're like, whoa, the person next to me or the person that I've loved for so long is actually the most beautiful person on the planet. And they're like in the middle of talking or in the middle of smiling or something like that. I don't know how we got here, but I always thought of myself that way. Maybe I always thought in order for a person to see how pretty I was, because maybe I've always been pretty, but in order for a person to see how pretty I was, they had to get to know me. They had to like hear me and my spirit and my soul and be like, whoa, that's the most beautiful person, you know? There's definitely beauty in that, but it's different. Potential for pretty. I feel like that's what I always had. And I was like, I'll be pretty one day in the future. I'll be pretty when I figure it out. I'll be pretty one day. But you know, I'm okay growing, and I don't know. Anyway, all of that to say, I've been thinking about that recently because, again, the little kids at school just get me every time when they're like, you're really pretty. And I'm like, me? What? Today wearing my like oversized jacket and my like stained jeans. Just, that's when I believe it. Those are the moments. And yeah, little kids sometimes say things just to like get your approval. But like some of these kids are just walking in the halls and I've never seen them before, and I'm just like, wow, I believe you. For once, I believe you when you say it. So, I don't know. Anyway, this was all an announcement to say that I'm entering my pretty era. So, join me for the ride, I guess. Anyway, that's everything. To the ride.